Nintendo is one of the greatest video game companies to ever grace this earth. They've been around a long time. In fact, we were right on the cusp of their 125th anniversary. They might not have been making games 125 years, but there's no denying that they have been making games for quite some time. Some of my most cherished childhood memories come from playing their games as a young lad. But there are also a few that scarred my young childhood mind. I wanted to do something special for their anniversary, and seeing that Halloween is right around the bend, I thought it would be fun to combine the two into something special. Without further ado, here are the Nintendo games that scarred my childhood. With the launch of the Super Nintendo, graphics were starting to improve, and you could better visualize what the game was actually intended to look like, rather than having to rely on your imagination. This is also the time when more mature, violent video games were coming out, games like Mortal Kombat, which pushed for a video game rating system, though it was some of the most family-friendly games that scared me the most. One of these games was Donkey Kong Country. King K. Rool, the game's antagonist, was downright frightening to me as a child. Do I even need to point out his jagged teeth, bloodshot eye, and creepy posture? I can't even count how many childhood nightmares I had of him, and he only got scarier in the sequel when Nintendo decided to give him a gun. Let me take you back to the mid-90s. I was 7 years old, and I was about to have my first sleepover at my friend Jacob's house. That night, Jacob and I snuck into his older brother's room, and sneakily pulled out his Super Nintendo, as well as a few of his games. We were up late, and we didn't want to get into trouble, so we quietly crept into his cold dark basement, and hooked up the Super Nintendo to a tiny 9-inch display TV. We carefully looked over the games that we had grabbed from his brother's room, which included Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country, Star Fox, and Super Metroid. When Jacob asked me which game I wanted to play first, I took one look at the cartridge art for Super Metroid, and I knew which game we were going to play. That one, I said, as I pointed at Super Metroid. The rest are all baby's games, I told Jacob, trying to look cool in front of my friend. We popped in the game, flipped the power switch, and turned off the lights. Little did I know, what proceeded from this moment would scar my innocent childhood mind, and fill it with nightmares for years to come. The TV lit up, and we were introduced to one of the scariest intro scenes of all time. There was creepy music, an odd-looking creature, making shrieky noises which I did not know was a Metroid at the time. And then it happens. The camera pans out, the music intensifies, and there are a couple of dead scientists just lying on the floor, as the title appears. This horrifying sequence of events led Jacob and I to go running up the stairs screaming and waking his parents. This is why I mentioned earlier that I was about to have my first sleepover. I don't count it as my first because I never slept that night. It's interesting though, because it was that fright and discomfort that somehow set off this trigger in my young mind that made me want to return to it. I wanted to conquer that fear it instilled in me, and I eventually would. Super Metroid has since become my favorite game of all time, and I'm not sure if anything will ever surpass it. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time may start out bright and cheery, but it definitely takes a turn for the dark side later in the game. When you get to the point where you finally get to pull the Master Sword from the ground in the Temple of Time, you were sent 7 years into the future. In 7 years' time, Hyrule drastically changes from a happy, cheerful town blooming with life to a dark apocalyptic setting. As you take your first steps outside the temple, and you get your first glimpse into the future, you realize Hyrule Castletown is destroyed, and there is no living life besides the enemies known as the Redeads. A Redead is a lifeless zombie that prowls around, moaning and looking for humans to munch on. They have this eerie scream that scares Link so badly that he freezes in place. These things are what nightmares are made of, and trust me, I had plenty of them with the Redeads in them. Besides the Redeads, there's one more enemy from the game that gave me terrible nightmares as a kid: Dead Hand. Dead Hand lives in the bottom of a well, surrounded by the remains of anything that has crossed his path. The floors and walls surrounding him are literally made out of bones and skulls. He has multiple bloody hands reaching up from the ground, which would then hold you in place as his body rose from the ground. He would proceed to creep very slowly towards you, and once he was close enough, he would stick you in his bloody mouth and chew on you with his broken jaw. Yeah, a little intense for a game that's rated E for everyone. I'm pretty sure if you showed this to any kid, that would scar them for life. And I doubt I was the only one that had nightmares from this as a child. Ocarina of Time was nightmare-inducing enough as a child, but then there was Majora's Mask, which one-upped it by miles. The game starts off pretty cheery, just like Ocarina of Time. Link is just looking for his fairy friend Navi in the woods, but within minutes, you fall down a dark tunnel, get cursed by Majora's Mask, get turned into a sad little Dooku shrub, and find out in 72 hours, the moon will fall and destroy everything. What a jolly opener. Throughout the course of the game, the clock ticks down as an angry-faced moon creeps closer. I would really recommend keeping your eyes off the moon, as it is not a pretty sight. One thing that really freaked me out in this game as a kid was the mask transformations. Putting on some of the masks would cause Link to scream and morph into different races from the game, as his eyes turn bloodshot red. The most memorably freakish thing that I remember about this game is not the game itself. It was the creepy TV ads that Nintendo produced for Majora's Mask. These ads were pretty eerie, and they gave me nightmares long before the game ever came out.
72 hours. One hope. Rated E for everyone.
That music. Oh, that music. If you've played Pokemon Red, Blue, or Yellow versions, then you already know what's coming. Lavender Town, the noble purple town as it's called, is well known for its ghost sightings and its eerie music. There are a lot of creepy rumors around the music alone, but I won't be getting into that, as it is merely speculation or misleading info that has mainly turned out to be false. But what I can say is that the music is creepy nonetheless. Every time I ventured through this town as a kid, I had a very discomforting journey. This town doesn't even feel like it's part of the game. The game starts out so happy, and continues that feeling for so long, that when you finally make it to Lavender Town, you feel like you got hit by a sack of bricks. The people that populate the town are filled with such spooky lines as, "Do you believe in ghosts?" And if you say no, you will get the response, "Haha, I guess not. That white hand on your shoulder, it's not real." In the special 4-part series called Pokemon Origins, based on the original Game Boy games, the main character Red, or the character that you play in the game, visits Lavender Town and speaks with the very same girl.
So then do you actually believe in ghosts?
No, I don't think they exist. I'm not sure, though.
Maybe not. I guess that white hand that's resting on your shoulder isn't real then either, huh?
Huh? What? Oh, come on. Stop kidding me like that, Kay.
What's really creepy is that you can actually see a very faint white hand over Red's shoulder. That girl wasn't joking. Lavender Town's main attraction is the Pokemon Tower, a gravesite for all the dead Pokemon. As you enter the tower, you will find people on the first floor, which came to pay their respects and pray for their dead Pokemon. Some of them can hardly even talk to you, as they are weeping in sorrow. As you climb the tower, you will pass by tombstones of Pokemon that have passed. Right before heading up to the top floor, you will hear, "Begone, intruders," as you find your way is blocked by a ghost. In order to see its true identity, you have to use your Sylph Scope. It turns out that the ghost is a Marowak, and by talking to citizens of Lavender Town, you will find that Team Rocket had come to their town to murder Cubone so that they could sell their skulls for profit. You then realize that the ghost Marowak that blocks your path died trying to protect her young. Now its ghost is here to haunt Pokemon Tower. Since it's a ghost, you can't catch it, you can only defeat it. After defeating it, the game will say, "The ghost was the restless soul of Cubone's mother. The mother's soul was calm. It departed to the afterlife." The culmination of everything in this town was a spawn of early childhood nightmares. And to this day, the music of Lavender Town sends shivers down my spine. Well, that about does it for the Nintendo games that scarred my childhood. But what games scared you as a kid? Leave a comment below. Otherwise, we'll see you next time, guys. Hey guys, JSmash here. If you like this video, remember to like and subscribe. You can also check out the new Minecraft series I just started with the good people over at icedjgaming.com. Just click on the link.